Hi, hello. Hello, Shom. Can you hear me? Hello. Yeah, sure.
Hey guys, give me a minute and we'll start the interview, okay?
Sharma-Manish.
Hey guys, let's start the interview. So Lalit, can you please switch on the camera and share your screen?
Yeah, Sharma-Manish. I'm just doing that. Am I visible? Oh, sorry. Okay.
Just
Yep.
a Yeah, thank you. Just give me a minute. Okay, Lalit. So I'm Manish. I'll be taking your interview. So before we start the interview, let's just give me a brief how it's going to go, and then we'll proceed.
Sure.
So first couple of minutes, it's going to be your introduction, where you tell me what you have been doing at your current organization,
Mm-hmm.
what projects you were involved with, what was your role within those projects, and we'll discuss a bit more about the tech stack. Right?
Sure.
After that, we'll jump into the conceptual, like the language specific questions. And
Mm-hmm.
at that, towards the end of the interview, I'll give you one coding exercise and we'll
Okay.
discuss the data structure and algorithms part. All right.
Sure, sir.
Okay, cool. So Lalit, can you tell me a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I have completed my BTech in computer science in 2017 from NIT Raipur, and after that I joined Oracle as a software engineer. In Oracle, I was for like SD1 for 2.5 years, where I have mostly worked on the on-premise side of things. Like in Oracle, I was a part of an organization which developed applications for Oracle's internal use cases, like sales forecasting, customer data creation internally. Customer creation, by customer creation, it's like whenever a new user comes for Oracle Cloud's usage, then the Oracle Cloud customer that gets created. That so
Okay, okay,
those applications we used to handle. In that, I was a part of team called customer data management. So our whole responsibility was to expose APIs for customer creation, as that was uh, like development and maintenance is what I can say. Oracle already had a like on-premise infrastructure in place with which they were creating customers, but it was in 2017 it was in a phase where it was half like half of the customers were creating from cloud and half of them were still on premise. So we had to like enable both use cases as well as keep both the customer data in sync. So we used to do it via bridges that have triggers
okay.
and publish a subscriber model to sync the data. So
Yeah,
that
that's
is one
quite
part.
good. Just let's focus on your last organization. Okay.
Okay, so currently in Microsoft, I have been working on a product called System Center Configuration Manager. So this is a management software that uh, that enables an IT admin or an enterprise IT admin to manage the PCs or every machine and servers in the organization. With this software, like you can do automatic operating system deployments, push software updates, make your client compliance. Like by compliance, I mean push in some policies to stop USB connections, thumb like fingerprint scanner, have some software automatically deployed running on them. Like whenever you can even push in applications to via software center from where the user can request application. Like everything happens with a sense of permission and like with a responsibility, unlike user going
And
and
what
downloading things. Yes.
and what is the tech stack that you've been working with?
Here it's a pretty old application. The tech stack they use is C++ for 50% of the scenarios and C
Mm-hmm.
sharp for very minor. Like this application has been in production since 1993, so most of it is built in C++.
And what other languages you're comfortable with?
I am comfortable with Java and PLSQL databases. I've been working on this for a long time, and C sharp also. C sharp I have been working since 1.5 year. React I worked for 1 year.
Okay, okay, quite good. All right. So in that case, since you have a general experience, let's start with the like quite
Mhm,
basic things. So
mhm,
when you design a service or
mhm,
when you work on a backend framework,
mhm.
what are the things that you take care of? Like you need to do some pre-planning, right?
Pro
Yeah.
pre
So what are
pre mhm.
so
Pre
like
planning.
so
Sorry.
how do you like decide between availability and consistency stuff like that?
O- Okay. So it depends on the service that you are implementing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if if it's like some ordering and banking mission critical system that cannot lose upon consistency, then And if you want that to be implemented in a distributed system, then you have to give up on uh, availability. Else, you can have the system more like available, but you can have follow available and distributed, but you can give up on consistency, making it eventually consistent. It
Okay.
depends on the use case that we are trying to solve.
All right. So how do you make sure that
Mhm.
so how do you make sure about availability basically? So would you prefer having your system deployed in multiple regions,
Mhm.
uh, or like
Uh,
what are the factors that you would consider?
Availability can can come from various, not just hardware related things. I can also say that software related crashes can also cause availability issues. So first thing is, first you can avoid software crashes taking up your system, like crashing your entire system, by having multiple nodes for your software. And then comes the hardware level. If your hardware fails, then first thing is, like, if you're targeting a specific geography, then it's
Okay,
fine.
so
I mean,
the hardware part of things would be taken care of by the cloud. And let's say you would be working on a new application. In
mhm,
that case, I believe cloud would be the way to go.
yes,
So let's consider you got cloud. There are no hardware issues coming. Let's talk about
okay,
only the software side of things.
okay. So availability, I can maintain a, like, you can make a system highly available. First thing is, you shouldn't be building it as a monolith. If you are building as a monolith, then once it crashes, it's a single point of failure and everything crashes. So that's a major no, I would say. Second thing is, after building your application as components or microservices, then I would say that having multiple instances will make your system more available. And if you consider storage part of it, having multiple nodes and having replicas for those nodes makes your system more available.
Cool, cool. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. So let's say you have to design a,
Mhm.
uh, let's say you have to design a messenger kind of service,
Okay.
right? Where you can assume that maybe 1 lakh users would be online at a time,
Okay.
right? So could you describe how would you break down the backend? How would you make sure there's no single point of failure and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So here messaging would involve two major actors, I would say. One is the sender, receiver, like two communication points, and everything that goes in between is handled by the backend. Now, first thing is storage. How do you store messages such that, uh, okay, first let's start with the basic. Like, you can have a single database storing all your data, but that was doesn't
If you
work
want to
because you'll have.
if you want to use a like Google Doc or something to put down your points, that is also all right.
I can use the whiteboard here, I guess.
Sure,
Okay,
whatever.
I don't think I have access to. I'll start with some draw.io or something.
Yeah, whatever you are comfortable with.
Sure. Just sharing a screen. Diagram. First thing is, you can have a single database, and let's say that you have too many users connected. Now the problem here is, like, uh, chat is something that you can't scale well with HTTP post request because that is too much. So instead of HTTP post request, I would suggest using WebSocket connections so that people start connecting to these WebSockets and get the data what they want. Okay, this will be our app server. Let's assume for now that handles all the WebSocket connections. Okay. Uh, Now a single database can't handle all the reads, like reads and
Okay,
write, because
all
that
right.
is too
Let's
yeah,
let's. Okay, okay. Please go on. Please go on. We'll discuss on the database part.
yes, sir. So now I have to make this database. I mean, the problem with chat is, for now, shall we assume that just we are having one-to-one communication and no group communications? And
Yeah, sure.
okay, the problem with, we can have multiple nodes and segregate messages based on users, but one
Okay, let's come.
problem.
Okay,
Mhm.
first let's come down to the basics. The problem is you
Mhm.
have to take message from one user and make sure
Oh,
it gets delivered to the other one,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So there must be something that facilitates this communication, right?
Yes.
Again, you talked about web connection, web sockets. So,
True.
so somewhere, how would you keep track? Because you see now when there are multiple users online, okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
let's say there are 10,000 users talking to 10,000 other users. So you
Yes.
are opening up 10,000 WebSocket connections, right?
Yes.
So how do you make sure which connection to use for a particular message?
Mm,
So
that
there are a
is
couple of things. So yeah, just think about it. First problem is how do you forward the message? And for the timing, you can even forget about the database. Let's assume you don't even need to store the messages. First problem is
okay.
how would you forward the message?
Okay. Let's assume that this is the guy who is giving our. Let's assume that we have limited users, and this is the guy who is facilitating communication. So this guy has to maintain that mapping of this user is connected to this socket. Like, from the user's point of view, the WebSocket ports might be almost predictable, but on the app server to which the socket the user is connected is a tough problem to handle. So in the at this layer, I have to have some mapping wherein I have this user ID to port number mapping,
Right?
and your
Because
uh
this user one might be chatting with two and three simultaneously,
yes.
right?
Now when the user one is trying to send message to user three, and like let's suppose he's chatting with both simultaneously, but he opens that user's three's window and starts sending messages to three. So that message should have that metadata to which user he is sending to, and when from that metadata he'll pick up that ID and see to which port this user three is connected to, and push
Hmm.
data to that port,
Okay, cool.
right?
So
So sorry.
go on.
Yeah. So in case of uh, very less users, I think one server can handle it, but in case of too much users, then this should be handled in a having like multiple nodes. But if we have multiple nodes, then the problem is like how like I can have this server and I can have, sorry, have another server. Let's say user one is trying to talk to user three. No, users one's connection is open on this port, this server. I mean, stored on metadata is stored on this server, whereas user three is stored on here. Like, the problem was to, like, how do these two know that there exists something?
Right.
So instead of maintaining that on the application server, I think it's because the app server also has to talk to database, and like it has other multiple things to do. Just
Mhm.
thinking that if we can have a dedicated hardware just to keep mapping of like some key value store, that big hardware which just has a huge memory which can handle, because just port to this mapping will be in kbs only, right? So even
Yep.
if we have 10 power 6 users chatting at time, it would be the memory footprint would be very less. So instead of
Yep.
loading the application servers with that, we can have some dedicated hardware here which keeps track of some in-memory data structure, I can say, or server which has in-memory software running. So these guys will be texting, I mean, communicating with this guy to get the mappings. Same thing with this guy also. So that our, and this is one thing, but this we have everything in memory, and in case of this fails, then like entire system will come down.
Yep.
This is a single point of failure now. So we can have a replica for this as well.
Okay, before moving on to that,
Mhm.
now since you said you will have multiple app servers talking to a shared fast memory, right?
Yes, yes.
So how do you make sure that one of the server does not get loaded? Like
Yeah,
how do you make sure the requests are distributed evenly?
yeah, we can have a load balancer here, so that
Okay,
this will balance the load between the application servers that we have, so that
cool.
we can use any algorithm that suits our organization's needs.
Okay. Now the load balancer is the single point of failure.
True. Like you, it's always recommended to have two load balancers so that if one goes away, the other one picks up.
Okay.
So this is like a hot replica. You can say hot, not replica, hot standby or something. You use that.
Master state, something like that.
Yeah. So that just after this is down, this can just come up.
Okay, cool. Please go on.
Yeah. So this will have a replica as well, so that it's always suggested to have one plus two other replicas, because once this is down, if we start overloading the second one too much, then there is a possibility that that can also be down.
Okay.
Okay, that is there, but now our entire system is depending on one database, which is a problem. Now, to make this fault tolerant, I am just figuring out how I can store, like I can have this database sharded on the user, or I can have, okay, let's for now just depend on sharding. Like I can have multiple nodes for databases and have replicas for them, and users data on one machine. But to maintain that chat with that timestamp and scroll like user readable, I would always, I mean, I'm just thinking like whether is it a necessary condition to have both, but that's not a practical scenario, I would say. I
Okay.
would say this, like whatever user, uh, both pairs they are communicating, the app server would like identify, if we have multiple databases, the app server would fetch messages for both, because those messages are timestamp based. It will be the responsibility of times and the app server to call APIs based on that. I mean, filtering from this message number, I need data to that point. Like in APIs, we have that filters, right? Using that filters, they will keep fetching very minimum messages. They will merge that on the application server and make the user 1 and user 3 interface very smooth.
Mm, okay. What if one of the users goes offline?
Yeah, even if user is offline, like that is like his status will go offline, but his messages will be there, right? And if the user 3 is still searching for messages with user 1, he's online, he's scrolling, so he will call the application server. Since he's seeing the messages of user 1, then both the metadata will come to the application server using both the user IDs. The application server, uh, because these are sharded based on user IDs. Okay, this, I don't know how to make that background. So yeah, because they are sharded on user IDs, application server will identify, because we need to have a load balancer as well. The application server, via the help taking this load balancer self, will be able to identify where the user data is, and uh, it will fetch both of them in a very limited, like 10 messages or 50 messages per call. It will merge those based on timestamp, and it make this user 3 lives simple.
Okay. So the thing is, when one of the user goes on offline,
Mhm.
You will have to close the WebSocket connection. You will have to
True.
delete the entry in the in memory.
Yes.
How would you facilitate that?
Mm, that is a interesting part. The user going offline, maybe we can have some threshold, like okay, how from okay, who does like who will initiate whether it's like it's like checking the user's heartbeat, something related to that. If his heartbeat is going uh, if his heartbeat is missing for some X number of seconds, then we can treat that his offline. So maybe some 5 seconds for now, let's think. But uh, that, to monitor that, either the load balancer should go and ping the user, which is not possible because the load balancer itself it's taking a lot of load from other users. So asking the load balancer to go and check every user in the 10 par 6 users is not a great idea, I would say. Maybe okay,
So might be the user application front end can implement a heartbeat mechanism, right? And
yeah,
you
the
can listen for API.
user can start pushing his heartbeat to some
Yeah.
point, and that will keep track of the whole list. And once the list is like, see, now user 3 is trying to communicate to user 1, so he will come and check with the load balancer on what port he is talking to. Whenever his then this load balancer can call some API to check with this in memory thing whether that user's heartbeat is active since the last 5 seconds. If this record is not active, then you just or with in the in memory with the port we can also have a place to store user's last heartbeat sent. If that heartbeat is 5 seconds, if more than 5 seconds, then when user 3 is trying to communicate with user 1, he will come here, this guy will check here, okay, this is more than 5 seconds, so it will just show that this guy is gone.
Okay, fair enough. So
Hmm.
the other part of this thing is
Hmm.
how would you decide how many application servers to create, how many load balancers to implement? Because
Hmm.
because you
Uh,
wouldn't want to provision more resources than needed, right?
mm, that
So
is
how would
true.
you let out? And that entirely boils down to the number of users which is using the
True.
application.
True. At any
So
point, the minimum. Hmm. At
and
any
what
point, the minimum. Sorry.
I mean, you would do some calculation based on some parameters, right? So
True.
what would be those? How would you like think about it?
Okay, I think calculating this memory is simple because if we have the footprint of each user, then that many users into that KB of data. So this is fine. But
But
I am
everything, let's start top down. User one will talk to load balancers. So
yes,
first question is how many load balancers you would need, right? So two is the minimum because you want the application and no single point of failure. But
true,
even two might not do the job if there are many number of users, right?
true.
So first question is this. Second question would be how many application servers,
Hmm.
okay?
Hmm.
And the point is, and you have to make this decision based on some criteria, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah. So,
Uh, Actually, I am not aware like how do you calculate it, but I can try. I would say like one brute force approach is before releasing your application into production, we can do a load test or a stress test and check how many uh, active connections a load balancer can handle without performance going down. We can keep monitoring the performance of this on the cloud and see how many of the concurrent requests it's handling. But that's a very brute force and approach, and you never can really be sure after that how much it's going on. And to be safe, we can put our application servers and load balancers as auto scaled units in on the cloud, so that whenever auto scaled units with some uh, resource criteria, like whenever an application whenever the application server goes any application servers go resource utilization goes beyond 80%, then automatically provision another application server and add it to the cluster. So I think since these are stateless, auto scaling will handle these guys. But the problem comes when you need to handle databases. So it depends on how much data that is getting generated per day. So let's assume that we have 10 power 6. Let's assume that we have 10 power 6 users, and each user sends around 100 messages per day. And every message is how much? Like maybe 10 characters, 40 bytes. 40 into 100 is 4 into 10 power 3 bytes. So this into 10 power 6. 10 power 6 is a GB and 400 GB. So it's like basically we need 400 GB per day.
Okay.
In case we are planning to remove messages since X older days, then that's something else. But 400 GB per day is getting entered into your system. Uh, so one thing, I mean, it just depends on how many users we have. I think having, like, nowadays databases are in TBs, so I don't know what's the ideal space a database can be provisioned with, but I'm just thinking if we have consistent hashing sort of mechanism. But I think for smaller applications that will be an overkill. But if we are thinking something at Twitter scale, then having a consistent hashing ring before the databases, I mean, having databases in the consistent hashing ring makes our life simple, because whenever you add a new database, it will that consistent hashing ring will take care of replicating the data from the nearby node, making the data distributed across all the databases.
Okay. Okay.
Like,
All right.
I am actually not that much aware of how much exact count of handling every
Cool, cool.
machine
Anyways,
can.
this is kind of open-ended question, so no issues.
Yeah,
Just give me a minute. I'll share the
sure,
problem with you. We'll talk about algorithms.
sure.
So I'll put into chat. So
Sure.
the given input is a array of ends. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you are given a sum, which is an integer.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find pair of elements in the array
Mm-hmm.
which are equal to sum.
Okay. Is that a sorted array, or do we have elements unordered?
So no, it's not a sorted array. I mean, there's no such constraint.
Okay. First thing is, like, we can use two loops and find pair. That will be n square. But if it was a sorted array, then we can use two pointer techniques to find the combination that boils down to that sum. But since this is not a sorted array, and if I use a set has set sort of thing, then what I can do is I can push all the elements into the sorted. Okay, I can do this, like, while traversing through the integer array, I see the number, I push it to a set. Okay,
Okay,
that, like, I push the first number into the set. From the second number, I see that in the set I'll check sum minus that current node is available in the set or not. If that is available, then the sum, then I got a pair. One is in the set and the other is this current node. So this way I can finish with minimum space and minimum time complexity.
But there might be multiple pairs which are equal to the sum.
Yeah,
We
there
have
can
to.
be multiple pairs. We want all pairs.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, that is one pair. Instead of stopping there, if I just carry on until the end of array, then we get all pairs, right?
Okay.
Like, yeah, the same. Instead of stopping when I get a pair, I just go ahead. Like, even if I get a pair, I'll push that and I'll take going on my pointer till the end. Do the same thing. If I'm at X position, I check sum minus X is available in the set. If it's available, then I got one more pair. Yeah.
Cool. Let's code it up. We'll talk a bit more about it later. Okay.
Yeah, I think one scenario is like if you have like one, two, 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 and you want to find a pair three,
Mm-hmm.
then I may end up fetching all twos and one pairs. Like one will go with every two, right?
Yep. And then it will be a factorial kind of problem.
No, it's not a factorial, right?
In
It's just
see how many pairs would be there. Let's say there is an array of 1 1 1 1. Okay,
mhm, mhm.
and you are trying to find two. So it's how many pairs are there? You can pair the first one with three, right? The second one with the remaining two. So it is essentially three factorial pairs for that particular sum.
Hey, this is a pair of numbers, right? I thought this is just two numbers. I mean, and we can't use more than two numbers.
No, no, wait a minute. Just let me give you the output length sample test, then we'll talk about it, right? So
Will
what do you have to find? So the indexes, let's say A, B, C, D.
mhm,
Okay. So
mhm.
basically,
Makes sense. I understand what you are trying to say.
right,
Now with first one I can have all the ones. With the second one I can have all the ones. With the third one I can have all the ones with the whole like it's like n square total.
it's kind of a factorial level thing.
Yes, that's true.
So yeah, we'll talk more about the complexity depending on the implementation that you write. So
Yes, yes, sir.
yeah, please continue.
I'm just opening my visuals.
Sure, anything you're comfortable with.
Video. Somehow that's not working. I'll open Word. Okay. Now I'll just implement the function and you
But
said
you
a lot of mhm.
but you will have to like run the code. So I don't think doc will work.
Okay, somehow suddenly my Visual Studio stopped working. I'll just check for Java online.
Yeah, you can use any online compiler.
Ah, I think this makes sense. So here I have a static get pairs. Now for this get pairs, I will get an integer array as input and an integer sum as input. I think my return value will be an array list of let's say I'll put them in a hash map, but hash map is not a good idea. Array list of integer integer. Now my integer give me my result set. Now for I less than I plus plus I have a set as well. Either set equal to new hash set is needed as a hash. So we'll start from 1 because my set is always a set uh, dot star but add r of 0 r dot length is less than or equal to 1, then you'll have no pairs, null or new empty. But instead of null, I will just send an empty array list, saying that, indicating that you have nothing. Okay, if you have that, then here it goes. And now, if set dot contains, I am not sure whether that is contains key or it contains the syntax. It contains. Now I need sum minus arr of. Okay. One more thing was like whether this integer array is only positive numbers or positive and negative. Hello.
Yeah, that's a good question. It could be negative as well.
Okay.
I'll share the test cases with you. Wait.
Sure, sir. Sum minus arr of I is there. Then res dot add is a hash map, then that's a problem. Array list cannot. I shouldn't. I'll make some node. Node. Can I print it or should I put it as a result set or something? Yeah, just
Yeah, what?
print the.
Yeah,
Do
you
you want
can.
me to? I'll just print it because it's unnecessarily I'm creating. Okay, this is fine. So if in case I have something in the set that is equal to sum minus my current value, then I found a pair. Pair. Pair is like set dot. Okay, and here that is ARR of I. Problem with set is uh, this is a lot, but not what contains keys. Then this is app dot get sum minus ARR of I. That is one pair, and this is the other. Else, if it doesn't contain map dot I plus less than n map dot. Yeah, This will work for at least unique cases. Okay, 1571 and sum is 6. 157 and minus 1 sum is 6. I will get this. Get pairs. 1 5 7 minus 1 7 ARR sum is 6. Sorry. This is never used. I have java.written. Sorry. Set up conversion field. Map has two key value pairs. Put this. Get this. If else brackets. I think this is the if. Oh, what's this? Messed up. 1 5 and 7 minus 1 are the pairs. System that I gave it print ln by 7 minus 1. Yeah. Manish, are you there? Hello? Hello? Am I
Yep.
audible?
Yeah, I've sent you the explanation for the second test case.
Explanation. Okay. Should I execute this? 157 minus 1 and 5. 7
So
minus
this is
1.
the expected output, right? Because those are the pairs.
Ah. And this guy is 6. And the output should be 2. 1 5. Okay, this fails with duplicates because map pushes it only once. So even if you have 1 5 twice, it will not and let you push that. And 7 minus 1 should have come up. Hey, it came, sorry. 1 5 came twice and 7 minus 1 came to. It is expected, right?
Okay.
Yep.
So are you passing all the test cases?
Yeah. With the second test case, it gave 3 pairs. First test case, it gave 2 pairs. And this is same as this, I guess. So it will give the same 2 pairs. This one is the same.
Okay. 1 minute.
Yeah, I don't think this will pass. This will fail.
Because you see, if you are talking about distinct pairs, right?
Yeah,
In that, ideally, what you are keeping track of is which index is getting paired with which index to create that sound,
true, true,
right? So in this last use case, so A index can pair with B, C, and D, right?
true,
So that is why there would be six pairs.
true. I think this is like given in integers, and you want like given an array and given somehow this looks like a DP problem. So instead of going 2 power n, we can use that optimal sub. We can use, but the problem here is maintaining that only that I have to take two as a pair. So
So you see,
instead of 2 power n, how?
your implementation is all right, but miss it will only find the unique pairs, I believe.
Yes, this will find only the unique pairs, and this will work fine until and unless we have multiple repetitions of the same number.
Yep.
And if you have that, then worst case would be 2 per n, do that, but we can improvise using DP on that, and we can get somewhere around n square of n square space and time. We will get the solution if we use DP.
Is there any way to improve it?
You mean 2 per n to lesser than 2 per n, or this only? For sure, I cannot
Okay.
do pairs.
So
Uh-huh.
think about it. What if the array was sorted?
Even if the
So is there some way where, let's say, you get an unsorted array, right?
Mhm.
You can sort it because we can sort it in O log and time, right?
Yes,
But you will also have to now maintain the index, like which index moved where,
true,
right? So if you can
true.
figure this out, then you can maybe use the two pointer thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, but two pointer is also great when you want to find only one pair. If you are looking out for multiple pair, then you never know where you have to stop. I mean, it will always find a pair, and it if okay. See, if you use two pointer also, like, I mean, it will not
Okay.
find all cases for this, I guess.
Okay. Okay. All right. Just
Other cases, if I sort and use two pointer, it's fine. It will get me the solution. But this case, it will not work.
this case it will not.
Yeah,
All
this will only need complete combination.
okay. Cool. No issues. I think we are good.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice talking to you. I'll give my feedback to Lavanya and she'll get back to you. Okay.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.